out there. Welcome back to Hearts Wine from Hearts Distractions, where we dive deep into the messiness, the beauty, and the emotional chaos that relationships bring. From fresh flings to seasoned marriages. And oh boy, today's episode is going to hit where it hurts or where it used to feel safe. Of course, I am your host, Alicia Minor Gaines, a licensed marriage and family therapist, relationship coach, an entrepreneur of multiple businesses, an author. Yes, go out and get my poetry book, Distractions of the Heart, available on Amazon. I'm a mixologist, yes, not just at heart, but also certified. And also, yes, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and family is everybody. So, today, we're asking the big, uncomfortable, relationship rattling question. Emotional affairs. How far is too far? Because sometimes it's not about sex. It's about secrecy, connection, late night texts, inside jokes, and the feelings you swore were innocent until they were not. We're talking blurred boundaries, friendships that feel too intimate, and the gray area that can wreck homes just like physical cheating can. And if you've ever had to ask, am I emotionally cheating? Then grab your glass, because this one might just be for you. Or maybe you thought your partner was getting too close to a friend, a coworker, even maybe one of your family members. If so, then grab your glass, because this is definitely I also want y'all to take some time and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Hearts Wine from Hearts Distraction on YouTube for exclusive episodes and content coming to you soon. I want you to be able to visit our website at www.aliciasdistractions.com for resources and updates. And definitely follow us on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, take some deep breaths and let's get into it. Let's get one thing clear. An emotional affair doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts in the heart. It starts when someone outside your relationship gets the emotional connection your partner is starving for. So what even is an emotional affair? I'm so glad y'all asked. According to the Journal of Marital and Family Therapy, it's a relationship where emotional intimacy and romantic connection develop between two people who are not in a committed partnership together. Here's the key. The affair isn't necessarily sexual, but it's intimate. It's the secrecy, the sharing, the comfort, and the emotional fulfillment that you used to give or should be giving to your partner. You know what they say, an affair isn't the problem, it's the symptom. It's the red blinking warning light that something's broken under the surface. And you don't have to sleep with someone to betray your partner. Let's be clear on that. Emotional affairs are the silent killers because they feel harmless until they're not. Let me break it down. Emotional cheating equals emotional intimacy plus secrecy plus consistency. There's a thrill, a spark, but it's not just about the other person. It's about how they make you feel about yourself. You know, a text here, a DM there. Suddenly you're sharing things with them that you're not even telling your partner. You're bonding, you're venting to them, confiding in them, and boom, you've created an emotional world where your partner doesn't let that sink in. Now, let's talk about how it starts, though. Most emotional affairs don't kick off with red lipstick on the collar. I think y'all heard me say that before in that last episode. They start with a connection that feels, dare I say, harmless, familiar, safe. Are we supposed to be out here being safe with our partners? I just wanted to throw that one out there. Because you tell yourself when you're in this predicament, it's just my work husband, or we're just really close friends. but you're suddenly texting them first when something good or bad happens. You light up when they message you, you start hiding conversations, you start rationalizing your emotions. You say something that sounds like, they just get me. They might. That might actually be true. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that we're strong enough to keep emotional closeness with someone else without it affecting our relationship. But emotional connection grows with time and repetition, two things that make it dangerous when invested outside the partnership. Let me tell y'all a story so y'all can understand what I'm saying. Let's meet Tasha. She's been married to her husband Marcus for 12 years. Loving, loyal, solid. But when she started managing a team at work, she got close to one of her coworkers, Jeremiah. Yep, that's what we're going to call him, Jeremiah. They laughed at the same things. Venting to him made her feel heard and understood. But then it shifted to late night texts, a deepening emotional connection, inside jokes Marcus didn't get, and eventually her husband found a text that read, I wish you were here instead. Some of y'all think about that. Natasha swore nothing physical had happened, but the betrayal Marcus felt, trust me, it was real. The thing is, emotional affairs often start with unmet needs. They grow in emotional vacuum spaces. When couples stop checking in with each other, those needs don't disappear. They just find another outlet. That's the danger of the innocent start. It builds on distraction, validation, and secrecy. So next time you're venting about your partner to someone else instead of your partner, ask yourself, am I building intimacy with someone I shouldn't? And y'all, please be honest. Be honest with yourself. Y'all know this episode wouldn't be real, raw, or inclusive if we didn't talk about how emotional cheating shows up in non-traditional relationships, like polyamorous couples or LGBTQ plus dynamics. Yes, I'm going there today. Because here's the deal. Emotional affairs exist regardless of the structure of your relationship. You can be in an open relationship and still have boundaries. And when those boundaries are broken, emotional betrayal still stings. Y'all know I'm going to give y'all another example, right? But I'm going to use a LGBTQ plus couple here. So we're going to take Ava and Jay, who is a lesbian couple who've been together about, let's say, 5 years. They agreed to have occasional flings with others, physically only. Let's be clear on that. But emotional connections were totally off limits. Jay ended up bonding with a colleague over their shared love of poetry and childhood trauma. It felt therapeutic, but it turned into consistent late-night phone calls, that emotional dependency. But when Ava found out, she felt gut-punched. Jay had broken the emotional boundary, even if no one ever touched anyone. So, no matter the gender, structure, or orientation, emotional exclusivity still matters if your relationship defines it that way. That's why clear, mutually agreed upon emotional boundaries are just as vital as physical ones. But let's pause and ask, are your emotional boundaries as clear as your physical ones? I want y'all to think about that. Because emotional infidelity doesn't discriminate. It just devastates. Y'all know I be hitting y'all with the lines, right? Okay. Because that one was a good one. I'm going to go and repeat that one for y'all because I'm going to drive this one home right here. Because I need y'all to understand, emotional infidelity doesn't discriminate. It just devastates. Yes, devastates your whole entire relationship. Devastates your partner's mood. It just tears things up like a whole tornado. Let's be clear. Okay, I know that one was a little heavy. So let's take a breather. You might need to get some more wine because some more truth bombs are coming. So get ready because it's coming. Because we're going to keep it 100. Because most people don't even realize they're in an emotional affair until it's too deep. It doesn't announce itself. Trust me. There's no red neon sign that says you're crossing the line. It creeps in slowly, seductively, under the guise of connection. So let's talk red flags, shall we? Let's talk about the signs. The emotional highlighters. That's where I want to go. Because if you're checking more than a couple of these, sis, bro, fam, take a long, hard look. Here's some red flags for you. You think about this person a lot, more than you think about your own partner. Get excited when they text you or dread when they don't. You hide your conversations, you delete text messages, you lock your phone when you never locked your phone. You share frustrations about your partner with this person. You fantasize about spending time with them alone. You compare your partner to them, and your partner usually loses. And the last one, you feel misunderstood at home, but seen by this other person. Here's the kicker though. None of these things by themselves scream affair. But emotional cheating isn't about a single act. It's about a consistent pattern of emotional withdrawal from your partner and investment in someone else. Y'all want an example? I'm going to give you an example. We're going to call this couple David and Simone, who's been married about 8 years. David worked in finance, long hours, high stress. Simone started reconnecting with an old college friend on Instagram. We all love social media, don't we? And it gets us in trouble. Well, it didn't get me in trouble, but it might got some of y'all in trouble. At first, it was just likes and comments, then DMs, then deep convos, then phone calls. Simone said, "I've never felt so understood." But when David found out and asked her to stop, she said, "Why? Nothing happened." And that right there, that denial, is common in most relationships. Because people don't want to admit their feelings have betrayed the relationship. Some of y'all didn't catch that. Some of y'all out here are not admitting that your feelings, what you're feeling, your emotions, yes, have actually betrayed your partner, your relationship. If you're constantly sharing your day, your heart, your excitement, your frustrations with someone who isn't your partner, then you got to ask yourself, what am I really doing here? Because emotional intimacy is like a garden. The more you water it, the more it grows. The question is, who are you growing with? Well, we're going to be exploring more of that growth, right? Because we want to explore what that growth can do, for better or worse. All right, let's get into it. All right, so now that we've unpacked the sneaky signs of emotional affairs, let's talk about the aftermath, the emotional fallout. Because yes, even without physical contact, emotional cheating can leave your relationship gasping for air. Emotional betrayal wounds differently. It cuts deeper because it feels more personal, more internal. While physical affairs may be easier to label and confront, emotional affairs feel like the ground was pulled out from beneath your heart. Research from Journal of Marital and Family Therapy reveals that up to 45% of emotional betrayed partners report trauma symptoms similar to PTSD. And for some of y'all that don't know what PTSD stands for, it's post-traumatic stress disorder. That look like flashbacks, sleepless nights, anxiety, and intense emotional numbness. Just like a physical betrayal, emotional affairs shatter the safety, trust, and shared narrative of a relationship. Let me break this down for y'all. Here's what emotional affairs can do. They create emotional distance, where you're no longer fully present with your partner and the connection you once had fades into resentment and suspicion. Emotional affairs destroy trust, where your partner may feel crazy, second guessing every moment you're on your phone. And some of y'all may have even heard the phrase, nothing happened, which starts to feel like gaslighting. Emotional affairs invite comparison, where your partner feels like they're constantly competing with a shadow, someone who doesn't live with you, pay bills with you, or share in the day to day with you, but somehow wins your heart's attention. And the last one, emotional affairs break down emotional safety. This one's huge, y'all. You know, that sense of you and me against the world, gone, vanished. Where it turns into now it's a me, you, and them, even if them has no idea they're in the triangle. Let that one sink in. So, can I go back to Marcus and Tasha's story for a minute to kind of bring some light to this of what I'm saying? Because after Marcus found that emotional text, Marcus didn't just lose trust, he lost the belief that he was enough. And Tasha, she spiraled in guilt, shame, and confusion. Because the truth is, most people in emotional affairs didn't set out to hurt anyone, but intentions don't erase impact. Hear me on this one, people? So for the sake of names, when I mentioned Simone earlier, this was actually a client of mine, but I changed the name, of course. But I want y'all to know, in Simone's story, Simone had told me I didn't sleep with him. So why does it feel like I cheated? Because the betrayal was real. It didn't live in the sheets. It lived in the silence, in the secrets, in the shift of how she moved. One partner starts pulling away. The other starts clinging harder or detaching completely. And before long, both are dancing around a relationship they no longer recognize. And that is what happened, unfortunately. This is why so many relationships crumble after emotional cheating. Because healing emotional wounds takes more than just ending contact. It takes transparency, apologies, repair, and time. So y'all know I'm going to share some more real life stories of couples who've been through this, right? Some who made it and some who didn't, just so y'all know what this looks like even more. Because understanding the cost of emotional affairs isn't enough. We need to hear what it looks like to pay that cost. So stay with me, because it's getting good, I promise you. So yes, it's time for me to pull back the curtain and listen to what it looks like in real life. Not everyone in emotional affair was looking for love or trouble, but the result, still heartbreaking, still some confusion, still growth, for better or worse. So I'm gonna call this story the cousin confession. Okay, I'm not only just giving y'all some fictitious names, but I'm also starting to label these stories. I kind of like it, so I hope y'all do too. But this one's called the cousin confession. Let's call this couple Denise and Khalil, who've been married for about 6 years. Well, Denise and Khalil have 2 kids, a solid routine, but one night Khalil left his phone on the counter and stepped away. We all know that's a huge red sign for some of us women out here that check phones. You leave your phone down, you should know that she's gonna pick that up. I mean, I don't do that, but I'm just saying. I know women out here that do. But let's know that on Khalil's phone, a message popped up from Denise's cousin. The conversation was, can we say intimate, deep, flirty, too flirty? And of course, Denise felt betrayed. Not because they had sex, although they hadn't, but because she read things her cousin knew about her husband that she didn't even know. The betrayal wasn't physical at all. It was emotional intimacy behind her back and from family, no less. Khalil said it was never about her. It was about having someone who listened without judgment, someone who made me feel like I wasn't failing. What's the lesson in this? I'll tell you. Emotional affairs aren't always romantic in intention, but they're still portrayal in effect. I'm going to give y'all another story. We're going to call this one Friends with Emotional Benefits. Yeah, I'm getting creative with these names, y'all. Follow me on this one, though. We're going to call this couple Julian and Xavier, who have been together for about 3 years and also living together. Xavier developed a close bond with his ex-roommate. They shared daily voice notes, talked about everything from politics to poetry to panic attacks. Julian felt like a third wheel in his own relationship and actually said, I'd come home and ask how his day was, and he'd already shared it with her. Well, eventually, Julian said, I can't be in a relationship where I feel like a backup plan. So what happened? They broke up, not over sex, but over the emotional affair Xavier refused to name. If y'all didn't catch that, clearly Xavier refused to take some accountability. And the lesson here is sometimes the safe space you create with someone else is the emotional weapon that destroys your actual relationship. I'm gonna let that one sink in while we head on to a third story. This third story, we're gonna call this the X-Files. Okay, I might be telling my age here for some of y'all, who may have watched the X-Files back in the day. This is how we're gonna label this couple today. We're gonna call this couple Mia and Darian. Mia reconnected with her high school boyfriend online. It started with catching up, then became emotional support when Mia's marriage hit a rough patch. And mind you, they've been married for at least 10 years. She started deleting messages. Darren knew something felt off. So one night, he asked, is there something going on? Mia, of course, said no. But her phone said yes. How did her phone say yes, you ask? Because there were screenshots, flirty selfies, and a note saying that, of course, Darian found that said, you'll always be my person. So when Darian confronted her, she said, we didn't do anything wrong. But Darian couldn't get past the emotional betrayal and said to her, you gave him your heart and I didn't even get a warning. The lesson here, when you're emotionally cheating, you might not think it's a problem until the person you love is the one left crying. Y'all, these aren't rare stories. These are everyday situations that I see from couples in therapy as well as those that I do relationship coaching with. Emotional affairs aren't in movies. They're in our phones, in our inboxes, in the little escapes we justify as innocent. But the cost, it's real. And then the next part of what I'm going to share with y'all, we're diving into how our culture, upbringing, and generational values influence how we even define emotional cheating in the first place. So y'all ready to go a little deeper with me? Okay. So stay with me then. Because here's where it gets layered, y'all. Yep. Again, that culture, religion, generational upbringing, all of these deeply influence how we interpret what an emotional affair even is. In some families and cultures, even talking to someone of the opposite sex is seen as disloyal. In others, emotional openness outside the relationship is normalized until it threatens the marriage. Think about it. If you grew up seeing your father confide in his female coworker more than your mother, or if your grandmother told you that men don't open up to women, you might not even realize emotional betrayal for what it is, because you were never taught to value emotional exclusivity, or maybe religion framed your understanding. Many spiritual traditions teach that emotional intimacy, especially emotional lust or longing, is just as damaging as physical sin. All right, I'm going to throw a little Bible verse at y'all. Don't be mad at me for this one. Matthew 5:28 says, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. That's Jesus talking about emotional cheating before there were even DMs, y'all. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just putting it out there. And then there's generational biases, of course. Baby boomers might say, if you didn't sleep with them, you didn't cheat. Millennials and Gen Zs are more likely to acknowledge that emotional betrayal is real and hurts just as bad. So I actually had one of the Gen Z listeners inbox me and told me, we live in a hyper-connected world. Emotional cheating is easier to do and harder to define. And y'all, she was right. The digital age has shifted everything. So what does this mean for your relationship? It means you and your partner need to talk about what betrayal means to you, not what Instagram says or TikTok, not what your pastor says, not what your parents model, but you together and now. Y'all need to be having these conversations now. Because if you don't define emotional boundaries, the world will define them for you. And usually, it won't be in your favor or in the favor of your relationship. Can we get into some more real talk? Because when it comes to forgiveness, emotional affairs can be even harder to move past than physical ones. You heard me. Why? Because when someone sleeps with another person, we at least have a framework. We know what to feel. We know what to call it. But emotional cheating, it's slippery. It's vague. It's denial friendly. And I think some of y'all may have heard some of the denial and some of the stories I gave you. But let me recap some and give you some new ones too. So you've heard phrases like, you're overreacting. We're just friends. Nothing happened. And yet, everything happened. Because emotional infidelity is invisible until it's undeniable. Let that one sink in. Psychotherapist Esther Perel says this beautifully. Infidelity hurts because it threatens our emotional security. It shatters the illusion that we are enough. And emotional affairs, they target emotional security first. I once had a client say, at least if he had slept with her, I could wrap my head around it. But this, he loved her. He dreamed with her. He told her things he didn't even tell me. And let's be honest here, people. There's a unique kind of pain in realizing your partner gave their soul to someone else, even if their body never followed. Forgiveness is possible in these cases, but it's rarely fast, rarely clean, and almost never without therapy or relationship coaching, emotional transparency, and serious reflection. It takes more than a I'm sorry. It takes owning the impact, committing to change, making space for your partner's pain, and doing the work to rebuild trust brick by honest brick. Forgiveness is possible, but only when the person who broke the bond is willing to carry the bricks back, not just say they dropped them by accident. Y'all know y'all be liking my sayings. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about prevention. How do you keep emotional affairs from creeping into your relationship in the first place? You don't need to be paranoid. You need to be present. Let's build an emotional fortress with these tools, okay? First, create intentional check-ins. For some of my listeners, y'all know I like my check-ins, especially for my couples. Weekly emotional downloads with your partner. Not just how was your day, but what's been on your heart this week. Now that builds connection. That line right there. Have open phone policies. If you're hiding conversations, that's your cue. Trust isn't about surveillance. It's about access without secrecy. Define emotional boundaries together. Like, identify what's okay and what's not. Is texting an ex a red flag or a non-issue. I think y'all need to get clear about that. Pour emotional energy into each other first. Your partner should be the first person you run to with joy, grief, gossip, or your weird dream at 2 a.m. in the morning. Just don't wake them up at 2 a.m. in the morning. Tell them the next day. I'm just saying. I want nobody mad at me on time. Alicia said, wake you up at 2 a.m. if I got this dream because I need to share it with you and not no one else. I didn't say that. And the last one, watch for the slow fades. Distance doesn't happen all at once. It trickles in. Pay attention to silence and correct it early. And if you're feeling emotionally neglected, say it. Don't cope by reaching for outside attention. Reach inward and bring it to the table. Because emotional needs don't make you weak. They make you human. And unmet emotional needs are the soil where emotional affairs grow. Hear me on this? So, if you've been through an emotional affair, whether you were the betrayed or the betrayer, this is the part where we talk healing. Rebuilding is possible, and I'm going to walk y'all through it. But it requires raw honesty, mutual commitment, and sometimes, yes, professional help. So here's your healing map. Truth telling. Where you give full transparency, no minimizing, no, we're just friends. You need the whole story to tell the whole story. Responsibility. No blaming your partner's shortcomings for your actions. Where you actually own the choice that you made. That's where trust starts to rebuild. Repair. This one's so important. Where you give the apology, where you apologize, make space for your partner's holding that position and not rushing it, letting them feel it all. Make room and space for your partner's emotions. Absolutely. That helps the repair. Recommitment. So you ask yourself in this one, what's the new blueprint for my relationship? What will be different now? And how will we protect each other's emotional world? And the last one, therapy or relationship coaching. Because you don't want to be trying to heal these deep cuts and wounds with a Band-Aid. Sometimes you need stitches. And couples therapy or couples coaching can help stitch the emotional fabric back together. So I want to close with this. Healing isn't instant, but healing is possible. I've seen couples rise from the ashes of emotional betrayal stronger, wiser, more connected than ever. Not because they pretended it didn't happen, but because they decided it wouldn't define them. So if this is your story, don't give up. Give it truth. Give it time. Give it tools. The tools I just gave you. And give it a chance to become the chapter you look back on and say, we didn't break. We rebuilt. So if this episode hit home or hit close to home, you're not alone. Emotional affairs are one of the most overlooked threats to relationships today. And they don't have to be the end of your love story. But they do need to be confronted with courage, with truth, and with love. So I want y'all to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Hearts Wine from Hearts Distractions, for more exclusive episodes and content. Visit my website, aliciasdistractions.com, for more resources and updates. Again, go purchase my poetry book, Distractions of the Heart, on Amazon. And follow me, of course, on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Until next time, hold your hearts gently, love boldly, and remember, the most powerful thing you can do in a relationship is show up emotionally. Cheers.